Namaste, Galactic family. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Come on into this dimension and come on into this live roundtable tonight. As we have so much to get into, as always with you guys, so much is going on around the world right now, particularly pertaining to the United Kingdom. We do know that our brothers and sisters over there on the land of Great Britain are definitely struggling with some things that are occurring over there, as uh, it does seem as though their sovereignty, their freedom of speech, and basically their culture is essentially being erased. And so a lot is really happening right now. And it's not just happening in the United Kingdom, it's really happening all over the world right now that there is a particular ultimatum that is being presented to the world when it comes to the holy wars in which are raising at this time. So you may have caught my most recent video that I did, you guys, where I was, talking about the rise of Arthur and the Holy Grail and the Christos Templar bloodlines and the Albion and the Avalonians. And, all of this is really coming to the surface as the 11th dimensional Stargate is activating in the United Kingdom in Stonehenge. So none of this is a coincidence. All of this is happening for a reason. We are going through a major planetary timeline ascension shift, and it's really shaking the foundations of the world right now. So we're gonna, dive into this as much as we can. We're gonna speak on this topic and highlight some of the things that we feel are kind of showcasing essentially what is occurring. So tonight we are going to go in order of our show topics. We're going to talk about this rise of the spirit of King Arthur in the Christed consciousness and clearing this sense of defeat that those over in the UK may be feeling right now. Because there's definitely a need for those over on those lands to reclaim and find their power again. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about why this decline of the UK is happening, some of the Civil War unrest over in the UK, and is King Charles converting to becoming a Muslim? And why we suspect this, why we think this is showing itself, and what this means for the people of Great Britain. We're also going to talk about what is happening with the Pope. Essentially, Pope Francis has been having nightmares ever since he's fallen sick. He's been screaming out at night, seeing demons that are trying to drag him down to hell, down to the purgatory realms. So why is this happening? And there's a lot I think we can speculate around this. There's always a lot of juicy subject matter when we start talking about the Vatican. Essentially, they did open those doorways and Lucifer's tomb. And there's also a lot of prophecy around this as well, that Pope Francis might be the last pope before the return of Jesus. So, yeah, there's a lot here to get into. I'm so happy that my sisters are here, that we're ready to dive in on this roundtable. And let's just go ahead and say hello to everyone joining us down in the chat. We do have some of our family already tuning in with us. Awesome. This is lovely. We're so happy that you guys are here. Um, we have uh, Connie here. She says she's never going to convert to that. All right, sister, we gotcha. We feel you with that. Jack Carter is here with lots of fire. We have Shay September checking on in. Earth Sign is here. And Jim Montgomery, Beverly is here. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Tune on in, check on in, put a big like on this video. You guys do have to be subscribed to the channel for at least 60 seconds to get down and communicate with us in the chat. But we love it when you guys connect in and let us know your thoughts as we move through everything tonight. And yeah, so we're happy you're here, and we'll just go ahead and start by introducing ourselves briefly. And As you guys know, I'm Indy. I go by IndigoAngel on YouTube. I'm down in Pensacola. We're getting lots of rain right now. It has been raining every single night as I'm falling asleep. It's actually been really nice and clearing. But yeah, things have been, and we actually had some of the fog. We had the fog, the mystical fog, going through the air last night. We were catching that outside, so we were like, wow, they're stirring this up again. So yeah, it's mayhem all over the place, but we are staying super centered and super grounded over here. And thank you so much for being here.
All right, I guess I'll go. Hi, everyone. I'm Ani Sophine. I live in Ashland, Oregon, which is about an hour north from Mount Shasta. It's been the opposite. It's been beautifully sunny, and all the snow is starting to melt, and it really starting to feel like spring right now, and all the flowers are blooming. So in the mountains, it's pretty stable right now, which is good. I'm happy for this, and I'm really happy to be here again with everyone for this roundtable.
Hi, everybody. It's Raquel coming to you from just outside of Vancouver. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Indy, again for welcoming me to this roundtable. Hi, Missy. Hi, Ani. It's great to have you guys here. Yeah, I should say that I'm having some rain as well, Indy. So we're on the same sort of climate, I would say. We had some beautiful sunny days, but now we're back into rain again. So that's not really unusual for this time of the year. So yeah, it's been pretty good.
And hi, I'm Missy, and I'm broadcasting from Western North Carolina in Cherokee, land of the Cherokee people, as well as the solar sun disk. So I'm happy to be here again, and I can't wait to dive into all this stuff.
Awesome. And it looks like we have uh, some people commenting on the fog. Yeah, Earth Science says toxic fog, and the fog is full of parasites, says Jack Carter. Yeah, that fog is interesting, right? Does anybody have any new intel on the fog? Like, has anyone else been experiencing it where you are? I was really surprised to see it last night down here in Pensacola.
Well, you're by the coast, so it would be easy for it to like kind of like push in because you're at sea level. So it'd be easy for them to create that fog to come. For me, like since I'm in the mountains, it's harder for it to like, get from the coast all the way over here. So I don't see fog that much, but sometimes there is fog like in the valley area. But it's creepy when it comes through, because it could, who knows, like
Yeah.
is it being like generated by made by something or someone, or is it natural?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think they did test it for parasites and they did find a particular strain of a parasite in it.
Ugh.
Yeah, so I mean, the
Like what kind of parasite? Skin
Uh,
parasite?
there's a particular name for it. If anyone knows what parasite it is, maybe drop it down in the chat. I think it begins with an M or an S. Um, but I wonder sometimes if they don't push these particular things, like I know it's something that a lot of people are capturing on video, but if they don't push these particular narratives to then go and try and sell something, because I mean, did you notice there was a huge boom of like these parasite cleanse offerings and stuff that have kind of happened since this fog has emerged? Everything seems to go hand in hand. I wouldn't want to say that, things are so diabolical that, they're pushing parasite fog just to sell parasite cleanses, but it's just it's just interesting how it all happens that way,
It's
you
like the
know.
problem, and then they present the solution, hey?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I do know that people were getting sick from the last time this thing hit, but I didn't quite look into it any deeper than that. But yeah, it's very interesting.
And you're also close to the military base, right? How far away are you?
Yeah, I'm really close to it. I think I'm about 20 minutes from the Navy base. Yeah, we just went down there actually last week and we went to go see the Aviation Museum and, check out all the World War II stuff they had down there. I have to tell you though, living by the Navy base actually does kind of give me some sense of comfort. I don't know. I wonder sometimes that if there was ever to be some sort of strike on the homeland, that I feel like they would avoid military bases. That would be a place that they wouldn't go first. So I don't know if if that makes me somehow safe being close to it or not. I'm not sure. Possibly.
I'll keep that in mind when I move from Canada.
Yeah. Come on down. Come on down here to Pensacola. We have the Blue Angels. They do all the air shows down here. It's definitely a very highly UFO activated city and town. We have a lot of UFO places where they've had sightings. I think one of the biggest sightings in the history of the United States, called the Gulf Breeze sighting, was down here in Gulf Breeze, which is a city, within Pensacola. And a guy wrote a book about it, and I think it was the most convincing UFO disclosure that they've ever seen come forward with pictures and all kinds of stuff. So, and I don't know if it's ever even really ever been debunked. So there's a lot that ties into that, and because of that, we have a lot of extraterrestrial like fun things to do. Like we have a UFO putt-putt and there's like a UFO house that people go and check out. And a lot of people put aliens in their front yards and stuff. It's really interesting. It's like a
Huh.
very galactic kind of city, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
Jim
somebody in
Montgomery
the
says,
chat says that they've got a report for you. It's called Fogwid.
okay.
So Shay, I believe, and he says he's going to send you the report. So maybe we'll get that information soon. Yeah.
Yeah, send it on over, guys. You can send it at info@indigoangel222.com if there's anything, information that you guys or intel you want to send to us. And then Jim says Serratia marcescens. Marcescens.
Is the name of the parasite?
Yeah, is
Okay.
the bacteria in the fog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so maybe we need to look into that and see what kind of effect that's having because I do know a lot of people since the fog started were having,
It's a pink mold.
ooh,
So anybody who is sensitive to mold, and that makes sense. And then it grows into these like, yeah, it's pretty gross.
yeah, a lot of people reported having pneumonia and coughing and trouble breathing, things like that around the fog. So,
Yeah, that makes sense because it affects and respiratory, urinary, biliary tract infections, periodontitis, wound infections. So it does a lot to the body in not a very good way. That's
no
something.
bueno. Just another thing to add to the list, right?
Yep. As you walk outside, you're like, am I breathing in parasites?
Well, it seems like, it's like we have it here on a level of the atmosphere, and then it's like we have it on this global level. We have this black heart virus, this black heart parasite that seems to be running through the culture, through society, through the holy war timelines, all of this that's occurring, kind of diving into what's going on in the UK. Um, it really feels to me that people really are looking for people to kind of take a stand of what's happening over there, because it's so hard for our brothers and sisters over in the United Kingdom to even have a voice at this time. I mean, they can't even really speak up or speak to what's occurring in their country. What have you guys seen with any of this? Have you talked to any of our brothers and sisters in the UK and got any word from anyone boots on the ground over there?
I don't know anyone.
Okay. I've heard that, things are pretty bad. Like the women are scared to go out into the streets. They are like they can't go out at night. They can't go into places that, certain areas of the city. There's many cities that are considered no-go zones that they can't even like go into those cities anymore because I guess they're just completely taken over. Um, and then the crime rate is super high. A lot of the knife stabbings have gotten really bad. I guess they're getting like just straight up stabbed and murdered all over the place. Like it's really, really bad. Um, and then you guys know about the grooming rape gangs that are going on over there and how they say 1 million white British girls have basically been victimized by this. So it's just, it's one thing after another. And I actually have a little video that we can watch to kind of start everything off. It's talking about the decline of the UK and
When
cultural
you look
erasure.
at when you look at just general videos, right, the backdrop of what used to be England or London is just falling away, right? It looks like a third world country now with all of the, little shanty shops on the street and just becoming messy and degraded all over the place. England and the UK used to have this sort of dreamy, romantic sort of environment about it. You don't see that anymore.
Well, they say, yeah, if you let third world in, you become third world. And it's really, I have to tell you, every time that I start talking about it, it definitely makes me feel like very sad for, the people that were once there. You think about all of the patriots of the UK that fought so hard to protect those lands, and it's just eroding before them. And there's not a lot they can do because there's actually nobody in their two-tiered government that is there to speak on their behalf. It's all been essentially taken over by the Islamist agenda. That's which I have recently found out is coming down from the United Nations. That there are these like particular groups, and I think Raquel, me and you have both looked into They Must Be Stopped, the book that we both got by what's her name? Gabriel or
Bridget Gabriel.
Bridget Gabriel, yeah. She talks about how they form all these groups that basically, are funding all the mosques, they're funding all of the Sharia courts, they're funding all of the jihad to get into the universities, and they're forming these coalitions that are going all the way up to the United Nations. And they've recently handed them, a document stating that this is how we view you and the rest of the world. We view you through the lens of Sharia. And they're like, this is why I said they're handing over an ultimatum because it's either you get on board and convert to how we view you through this lens, or we're going to continue to dominate and assert this force. And I think it's pushing itself and asserting itself through the United Nations. I mean, if this is what's coming down, I mean, that pretty much governs the choices of Keir Starmer, and does that govern the choices of King Charles? I mean, isn't he, what is his power over the land? Is he just a power over the Windsor Castle, and he's like the head of this church? He's the head of the state. So, that's very interesting. And then you see him kind of crumbling to this agenda. And I don't even think it's an agenda. How do we know that this isn't coming from King Charles himself, seeing how much he has shown submission and potential conversion to Islam at this point?
Yeah. When you think about the book that we were just talking about by Bridget, the way she describes it, it's like they come in a very sort of stealth mode, right? They come into your communities and it's like a blanket sort of takeover, but they're doing it in a very hidden fashion where, it's not in your face, but they sort of, immerse themselves into society in every way possible. And then it's almost like, when they say, okay, we are ready to go online, it's then like, they come out and expose themselves, which is what is probably happening now in the UK and to some extent in Canada as well. But yeah, they just, and like you said, they perceive everybody in a different light. And so that's just their focus, right? And so it's like, you're given a a mission, and that's your focus for life, right? And so they have nothing else that they can look at. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how the monarchy and the leadership have just turned a blind eye to everything that's happening. It's like they're not even willing to come out in public and give people that assurance that everything is okay. But it's like very blatant and in your face right now. It's like the cops are not supportive of the locals, like the actual residents. And that's happening in Toronto here as well, people that are going out and fighting for the country are getting arrested. But, when these thugs show up and break down, buildings and, cause all kinds of ruckus, they're never arrested. So you see that stark reality happening right in front of your face. And, you begin to wonder, it's like, why is this bias happening? And that's happening in the UK as well right now. And it's really hard to see that.
Well, it's a good thought.
Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead, Missy.
this has been planned for years. We're seeing something now, but how many years in the making was this that we weren't even aware? I mean, I became aware of it when I don't know if it's Michigan or Minnesota. There was some Muslim woman running for some office and was part of, getting in bed with the liberal agenda. And people have been talking about, even in Western North Carolina, there's, cells of these people here, underground kind of. And I noticed it in Charleston. When I was in Charleston a few days ago, before I came to North Carolina, when I was working on our grid mission tour for Let Freedom Ring, y'all got to come out to that. I happened to go by a mosque. And then the next day when I went into Charleston, I saw, two women in the hijab in Costco. So it's becoming more prevalent. And, we know what's going on in Texas. We talked about that on another show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely infiltrating the United States, that's for sure. Houston, Texas, Josephine, Texas, Epic City. They just announced Palestine in New Jersey. I guess there's a city they're calling it Palestine, New Jersey, where they have, the largest Muslim population in New Jersey. And it's just, sometimes I wonder, I don't even think a lot of these Muslims even fully understand the detriment of what they're even subscribed to at the end of the day. Because a lot of them don't even make the connections to the terrorist being like being like a part of their beliefs. Like they try to secularize this, if that's even a word, and break it up into like moderation and radicalism when it's really all falls under the same ideology essentially. And it was designed this way, and the true subscribers and the purest forms of the religion actually do know this. They do know that these groups that are out killing people, like the radicalists that seem like they're coming out of nowhere, or the terrorist groups that seem like they're coming out of nowhere, or the pro-Palestinian uh, uh, supporters, or those that are rallying, like it's all coming back to the same ideology at the end of the day. And it was designed for them to actually be assassins. They are assassins. They are the warriors of the ideology that were sent to essentially force the belief onto the world. In that book that we have, They Must Be Stopped, she talks about that 100-year caliphate. Like it is an actual book that they did in like May of 1991, that they put it in written form, that it is to conquer the West by any means necessary, whether it's through slow jihad or whether it's through force. And if our leaders of the world don't wake up to recognize that they are literally handing over this ultimatum, I mean, it just will continue to slowly erode because they're in it for the long game. Muslims will tell you they don't live for this life, they live for the next. They're not kidding when they say that. They don't care about the living. They care their value systems are to place the ideology in Allah and their belief system before the value of life, and they're willing to die for that. To push the ideology to make sure that it does conquer the globe. Like to me, um,
That's scary
it's
because
scary.
it's
Yes.
scary because they're willing to take.
Don't forget those 72 virgins. Don't forget that.
Yeah, they're just willing to take whatever means necessary, and they're willing to take their life, and they pre-program their children to believe that this is the only way. And so how do we change that? Like
Well,
that's my question. How
I just
how
want to
can
make sure that we don't slam every Muslim, by what
yeah,
we're saying, and we have to make that distinction.
sure.
Like there are good Muslims, and there are those that are affiliated with these groups, if you will. Just before we came on, I just saw a post by Tucker Carlson. He's meeting with the Prime Minister of Qatar, And he says that they had opened up a Hamas office within their country. So Tucker's like, why would you do that? So he's defending his position, saying that we did it because we wanted to have peace in the region and we wanted to have these people to be there with us to have a conversation to bring about peace in the area. But since that has happened, they haven't really followed the agenda of peace. They've still gone rogue and they're still doing what they want to do. So in other words, they don't necessarily want to associate with peace and what that brings. They just want to, like, we were talking about, just drive that agenda of theirs all the way through. It doesn't matter, where they are in the world. So even the Arabs and the true Muslims are against this group, if you will, right, that are infiltrating and doing all of these horrific things.
I think the Muslims, a lot of them don't even know what the Quran says, just like a lot of Christians don't know what the Bible says. That's really it, and most people are, good-hearted people and don't want to do harm, but then that mind control comes in and it's just crazy, crazy.
So I just have a question. Aren't there two different factions? Like one group is going towards the extremist route, and then the other one is somebody needs to fill me in here because I don't have the exact word for it. But there's two different groups, right? The Shiite,
Yeah, the Shia and the Sunni. Yeah, there's two different groups
okay.
within that. And I don't know if they like each other all so well. See, that this is the problem with it, is it's like, yeah, there's all these different groups. And, I think we really have to take a look. Like, we have to stop turning away of what's going on in Syria right now. I mean, wow. I mean, I was even one who like celebrated the new government coming in for Syria because I'm like, great, a new start. They're gonna, build back better. And they got that old corrupted government out of Syria, and now they're just going back to the same thing. I mean, you see it on X. There's all these Christians laid out on the ground. They got guns to their heads. They're going around slaughtering all the Christians in Syria. I mean, and we know that this has happened in all those other surrounding countries. I mean, Syria, Lebanon, Beirut, like these all used to be Christian majority countries,
Yep.
and now they're just basically annihilated. I mean, this is what's happening. This is what's moving into the United Kingdom. Like you just said, the leader from Qatar, Raquel, said that he fears that there's going to be more radicalists coming out of the UK than from the Middle East itself now, because they basically took on all of the militia and assassins, the ones that they didn't want, and pushed them into the UK. I mean, this is scary for all of the white British nationals of the UK. I mean, they are literally, it's like herding a bunch of sheep into like a cage on a wolf farm, and just being like, you can live here, on your own land for a little while, but don't get out of the pen because, the wolves are going to basically eat you. I mean, this is the threat that's encroaching on them in their own country. I mean, to me, and the fact that there's nobody there standing up for them, there's nobody like calling this out. Anybody who's tried, right? Tommy Robinson, they put him in solitary confinement, which, by the way, he's been in there for what? Way longer than any of their regulations or laws have allowed. Like they've basically pushed this past and into a situation that's just completely inhumane. Like, why are they treating him like this for mortgage fraud? That's what they said he's in there for. Like, it's really, really, really strange, It
Well, they
makes me
did that
wonder
to
how much of the
Tamara.
government in the UK is already Islamist ruled and controlled. I mean, we know all the mayors are, but
Yeah.
on the level of the prime minister, how much of his cabinet is Islamist?
Well, you got to wonder though in DC, it's almost like the whole COVID situation, right? It's like all the leaders are acting as one. It's like the US, Canada, UK. It's like they just threw their doors open to all of these immigrants at the same time. All of these guys came in through the back door. And when you look at these droves and droves of people coming in, there are no women, there are no children. It's all fighting age men. Why is that? There's an
They're planning.
undergoing there's an underlying factor to all of this.
Yeah.
So the root of this is much deeper than we are actually seeing. So it's all behind the scenes and we still haven't got to the bottom of it, right? So There's a lot going on that we don't actually see. And that's why, like all these public figures and heads of state are quiet now because they know that they were implicated and they were involved in letting all these people come into these countries, right? Uh,
Man, and boy, do they sure have a lot of blood on their hands now. I mean, it makes you wonder, like going back to the Pope, that whole thing that happened, right? As he was opening up those gates over the winter solstice and opening up Luciferian tombs to the underworld, he publicly condemned Israel. And then if you go back to the origins of Islam, a lot of the things I've been reading and getting into, and um, Shade, one of my dear Iranian sisters, led me to Leo Zagami's work. They talk about Islam coming from the Catholic Church. Like the Black Pope created this, that Muhammad's wife, Khadijah, was a missionary from the Catholic Church, that she was like sent to him to teach him the religion and teach him the faith. And that all of this was birthed through the Catholic Church. And so, it's just all that to me. It's like you see the Pope publicly condemning Israel, and then you see looking at the roots and the origins of Islam, and it's like, wait a minute, what's actually happening here with all this? Is the Vatican essentially controlling the holy war between the Jews and the Islamists?
Possibly through the Kaaba or the Kaaba. I always say Kaaba, but Kaaba, because they have some type of, in the Vatican, they definitely have artifacts, ancient artifacts, and we don't know exactly what they have and what they're hiding. So, what if there's some link between whatever they're hiding and the Kaaba? And that is that link right there, that like energetic line or whatever it is. It's like a power source of something.
Well, we know this definitely comes back to what we're seeing with this potential public conversion of King Charles. So I'm going to play this video that I have of someone kind of drawing all these connections together. And let's watch this video together, and then we'll kind of deep dive this together.
oh, Rob is
And
waiting.
and then we have Rob coming in as well. Let's let him in really quickly. Yeah. We have another guest joining us, everyone. Rob from Typical Skeptic Podcast is here.
Shit. Yeah. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Rob, welcome to the show.
Yeah, how's everybody doing?
We're doing good. We're just starting to dive into some of the juiciness of all of this. Um, yeah, we're happy you could join us.
Yeah, I was in Pittsburgh. I had to go downtown for like a UFO meeting and stuff like that. But yeah, it was okay. But yeah, I saw you. I heard you guys were talking about Islam and like religion. I think that goes back to the Anunnaki. I think me and you have talked about this before. I think it's clear that like all three of the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all go back to the Anunnaki. And they use it as a way to control because what do the rulers of this world want? They want to control us. So all Abrahamic religions are a control system, I think. And I think they're systematically put together so they fight with each other. Whether you're looking at a civil war in Lebanon between the Christians and the Muslims, or you're looking at Israel where the Jews and Muslims are fighting, it's always, chaos in that area. Why? And then I feel like they get loose off the bloodshed. I really truly believe that. Some greater force, some interdimensional reptilian Anunnaki coalition force gets, loose off of bloodshed. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely thinking about that because, and it's like, but why are they pushing, like, because it feels like out of all three of them, they're pushing Islam. Like, Islam has the expansionist element to the religion. That's the one that's being forced upon humanity as an ultimatum. Either you convert or die. So, like,
That's the only one who that hasn't been part of like in the world, like the dominant religion yet. Haven't the other ones been more dominant? Christianity for sure.
I think it's the Antichrist religion. So when
Yeah.
they talk about the Antichrist, I feel it's going to come through Islam. I do.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that. And but even too, like when you're comparing the prophets, like if you compare Christ and you compare Muhammad, it's just like, because if you think about the prophets, like they're technically role models that people keep in terms of like, how am I a good person? Like, who do I want to idolize as like characters, qualities, and how do they treat others? Like, the virtues they carry and things like this. Like when you compare them, like it's like apples to rotten apples. I mean, really, truly, just looking at it from a place of observation, neutrality, going through each one. Like it's like
Violence.
I
There's
would
lots of
yeah.
violence. Yeah.
I mean, and Muhammad was a pedophile. I'm sorry to say that, but this is why child marriage exists over in the Middle East. I mean, Muhammad took his wife Aisha at 6 years old and then slept with her at 9 years old. I mean, and you see all these child marriages that are going on, like forced breeder stuff, like just like diabolical. I mean, you see these young girls, they don't want to get married. They don't want to do this. They're scared out of their minds. They don't even know what they're getting themselves into. And this is being forced upon them. I mean, over in Afghanistan and Pakistan, they sell these girls off for flour and food. It's just it's deranged. It's literally third world mentality. And yeah.
It's
Okay,
even darker than that.
it is. Yeah.
But it's like modern day barbarianism, to do that to someone that young, it's disgusting, it's actually sick.
Okay, let's watch this video on King Charles. Check this out. And just let me know, you guys. Put a 5x5 down in the comments. Let me know if you guys can hear the sound, okay? I did check my settings. It said we were good.
Is King Charles a Muslim? But why are we even talking about this? Well, it relates to a controversy surrounding some of the prince's recent actions. To start with, he was seen packing dates for Ramadan.
You are packing dates faster than I can see them.
And by itself, that means absolutely nothing, right? Because King Charles is a public figure, and he's just doing public figure stuff, I guess. But next we have the celebration of Iftar at Windsor Castle. And for those who don't know, Iftar is the breaking of the fast at the end of a day of Ramadan. So Muslims during Ramadan, they don't eat during the day, and then they feast in the mornings and they feast in the evenings. And that was celebrated at Windsor Castle for the first time ever. Windsor Castle being the home of King Charles, of course. Now, as I say, this is pretty unusual. Windsor Castle, home of the king, first time this has ever happened. But by itself, again, this isn't really that strong evidence, if we're honest. The king, after all, he's a Christian, right? And so what words do you think the king had for Christians on Shrove Tuesday and Ash Wednesday, or Lent in general? Nothing.
And the royal family also took to their Twitter feed, and they have millions of followers to mark the occasion, sending their best wishes to Muslims in the UK, Commonwealth and all around the world.
Which is all very nice, and quite right, of course, because there are many, many Muslims who are in the Commonwealth which the royal family heads. However, what's been said for the Christians?
Zippo.
Because there's been a deafening silence from, well, the royal family, politicians, and many others as Christians mark the beginning of Lent, despite the fact the king is, of course, head of the Church of England.
Yes, it's all rather disappointing. Shall we get the reaction of the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, Dr. Gavin Ashenden?
It's very odd indeed the king, who's head of the Church of England, should simply be silent. It's an act of discourtesy at one level, but at another level it's hard to understand it as being just discourtesy.
As you heard the former bishop there say, it's quite hard to understand this as just a discourtesy. And I agree. So what other explanation is there, possibly, for the head of the Church of England forgetting Shrove Tuesday, Ash Wednesday and Lent more broadly? And you see, back in 1993, the Grand Mufti of Cyprus claimed to know for a fact that Prince Charles has converted to Islam. He said that it happened in Turkey, and he said that if you really want to know the truth, look at how often the king travels to Turkey, and you will see that your future king is a Muslim. Buckingham Palace, of course, were very quick to deny this, as you might expect. But such a strange thing to say. Why would he say it, right? Now, you could say, of course, that the Grand Mufti was probably just creating a bit of mischief. Fine. And yet, 3 years prior to this claim from the Grand Mufti, Charles delivered a speech at the Sheldonian Theatre in Oxford. And I'm going to read you 2 snippets from it, because I think you'll find it rather enlightening. Our judgment of Islam has been grossly distorted by taking the extremes to be the norm. For example, people in this country, England, frequently argue that the Sharia law of the Islamic world is cruel, barbaric and unjust. Our newspapers, above all, love to peddle those unthinking prejudices. The truth is, of course, different and always more complex. My own understanding is that extremes, like cutting off the hands, are actually rarely practiced. The guiding principle and spirit of Islamic law, taken straight from the Quran, should be those of equity and compassion. Okay, and then later in the speech, Islam can teach us a way of understanding and living in the world which Christianity is poorer for having lost. At the heart of Islam is its preservation of an integral view of the universe. Why is Charles making speeches like this in the early 1990s? Islam was barely a speck in the demographics of the UK back then, so I don't think you can really argue that it's all about him being a public figure and things like that. Unless, of course, he knew that this was going to expand in the UK to become 10, 20, 30%. That would be interesting. Now, Charles has actually made a whole bunch of speeches like this over his lifetime. And look, you're welcome to dismiss these as, you know, he's just a public figure, he's trying to unite people, he's trying to understand something about the world. Fine, you go ahead and do that. But don't forget that this guy is meant to be the head of the Church of England, a Christian church. Anyway, we have another speech from 2006, and this time I have some video footage. And again, it's Charles laying huge praise on Islam.
The rights of Muslim women to property and inheritance, and to the conducting of business, were rights prescribed by the Quran 1400 years ago. Some of these rights were novel even to my grandmother's generation. Many of the traits on which modern Europe prides itself came to it from Muslim Spain. Diplomacy, free trade, open borders, the techniques of academic research, of anthropology, etiquette, fashion, various types of medicine, hospitals. Islam is part of our past and our present in all fields of human endeavour. It has helped to create modern Europe. It is part of our own...
Yes, of course, because basically everything good in Europe, that came from Islam. Women's rights, they've always been at the forefront of the Quran. Okay, Charles. And why does Charles think he's such an expert on Islam anyway? Well, you're probably going to want to take a seat for this. This is going to shock you a little bit. It's because Charles learnt Arabic so that he could study the Quran. Now, think about this. He could have learned Aramaic, the language that Jesus spoke. He could have learned Hebrew or ancient Greek or ancient Latin so that he could better understand biblical texts as the head of the Church of England. But he didn't. He learned Arabic. Now, this is as per an article from the Daily Mail in 2013, and before people say, oh, Daily Mail, yes, Daily Mail, but it directly quotes him. It is true. And it is mind-blowing, if you ask me. I find this story... I can't believe I didn't hear about it at the time, but I find this really shocking. Anyway, how good exactly do you think Charles's Arabic is? Well, let's take a listen.
Assalamu alaikum. Hayakum maratan ukhra. Fi al-Memlaka al-Mutahida baladkum al-Thani.
Yes, his Arabic clearly sucks, but what did you really expect? He's a guy who took 2 A-levels and only managed to get a B and a C. And I don't want to sound like an academic snob here. I understand that my academic achievements are not the norm. They are, in fact, very good. But this is King Charles, at the time Prince Charles, a guy who could have had unlimited tutors, the best possible education, everything. And he only managed to get 2 A-levels, which tells me something. He either really hates education, he's very lazy, or he's really rather thick. Now, if he really hates education, Why is he spending so long trying to learn Arabic? That must be torture for him, unless he's really deeply committed to the cause. Anyway, that meeting, by the way, that was a meeting with a whole bunch of Qataris, and the Qataris are the same people who walked into his office and dumped 3 million euros in cash on his desk. I'm deadly serious. You can go and look that up for yourself. What do you make of all of this then? Do you find the arguments convincing that Charles could in fact be a Muslim? As for me, I don't really know for sure. But what I do know is this: he is not a Christian.
Indy, let me go in on this. I think I'm gonna blow your mind with what I found out. I don't know, nobody knows this, but I have the video right here. It's called by Robert Sefer. Big shout out to Robert Sefer. It's called Queen of Islam, Elizabeth II related to the Prophet Muhammad. It's right there. So they have the royal family has ties to the Prophet Muhammad, and that's a video by Robert Sefer. And I find his material to be very credible. So that gives you all your answers right there. They have ties to Islam, and it goes back to, and I can link you this video.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You know who Robert Sefer is? He's like an anthropologist. He's pretty well known, so his information is pretty credible, but that shows you there that family's had ties to Islam for a long time, you know.
So what do you think that means then? I mean, if the royal family's just gonna kind of convert.
Well, it also, they're reptilian too. I mean that's like so like, they're bound to do reptilian type things.
They're not the true royals. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with Rob when he said the connection between, the Abrahamic religions and this Anunnaki thing. It could be Anunnaki. It could be, do you think it's Anunnaki or reptilian? Because I feel like they're different.
They're probably both, but I heard like from people that come on my show, they say that they're kind of working together, that it's like this like evil coalition. I mean, some
Right.
people say there's good reptilians and bad reptilians, but for the most part, we know the Draco are bad and some of the Anunnaki
Right.
are bad, and then they have the Greys that work for them, and it's like this like coalition that so
Well, and if you think about the forest breeder programs too, I mean, that's kind of the sustenance of the reptilians. And then where do you see the extent of the forest breeder programs being played out? I mean, it's through the ideology of Islam. So, I mean, it makes sense. Like, if they feel like they're losing the battle over the forest breeder programs, then they're going to push that. They're going to push that program. They're going to push that ideology to make sure that they sustain over power over the feminine on the planet. And that's the way to do it because it's the ideology of submission. They have to submit.
And
Well, if
also,
you look at it from
yeah.
that high layer, right, or that top tier, like Rob just said, if you look at it from the reptilian and the Anunnaki perspective, it's like these kings and queens are like below them. It's like they are the minions for these guys, right? So whatever they decide to do, like you marry this person or you marry that person, it's like it's not left up to them to decide, right? That's why you have all these agreements made, and you see that in England, right? They had all these arranged marriages between these families, right? And so, what's to say that it didn't happen between the UK and the Middle East, right? So, from that higher perspective, it's like they would have arranged all of these intermarriages to take place, and that was probably the reason where they wanted to have these bloodlines coming through from all different countries, essentially, and then they saw the future before we could, right? And so they knew that this would happen at some point in the future.
Yeah, this was probably planned thousands of years ago.
Wow. Well, it's just, what do you think the message is for the people in the United Kingdom? Because this is what I've been seeing is that there's been a huge spark of the Arthurian Grail codes that Stonehenge is activating. Missy, you even picked up on this. Like there was a connection from Stargate 2 to Stargate 11, the Vale of Pewsey, Wiltshire, that all these, Ireland's Eye, that all these places are running the Christos original teachings, through the ley lines again, that there will be some resurrection of the Arthurian bloodline. So, do you think that there's going to be an ability for the people in the United Kingdom to take the land back, or what do you guys foresee kind of happening?
Well, I think it's good timing for you to have this grid work session, Indy. I think it's high time that that happened because energetically, I think the lands are ready to come out of that status stage, if you will, right? Stasis, is that what it's called? Stasis, yeah. So yeah, I think those beings that were in slumber for all of these hundreds and hundreds of years are, are awakening now. And because from my perspective, because we are in this photon belt energy, it's right for them to ascend, if you will, or come out of that slumber. And so they're just waiting for humanity to give them that signal to come forth and come forward. And I think they've been waiting for that tipping point, if you will, for the collective consciousness to come online. And I think we're pretty close if we haven't already tipped that scale, right? And so that's why I think it's important for, I try to promote this wherever I can is to, connect to your higher self, raise your vibration, bring that collective energy into that higher realm, if you will, so that all of these things can take place. And so, you bringing that grid work into fruition, I think it's great timing to do that right now because I think the lands are ready, the people are ready because, you don't get factions warring against each other for nothing, right? It's because there's unrest in people's hearts and they're feeling that unrest and that non-alignment within themselves because they're not aligned with that Christ consciousness, right? And so they're uprising because of that. To a large extent, they may not understand energetically what's happening because of the fracturing as a result of the Draco and all of the galactic history side of things. But just as human beings, they're not in alignment with what's happening. And so I think it's great timing that you've got this grid work coming up.
Yeah, definitely, guys. And everyone listening, we have a grid work mission for the United Kingdom on March 11th at 1 p.m. CDT time. The links are down in the description. We'd love it if you guys would join us. We're definitely going to be holding ceremony. We're going to be holding prayers. We're going to be holding meditation. We're going to be holding intention for the activation of these gate systems, for the ley lines of clearing all the corruption, the warfare, and just bringing forward the sword of truth and everything that's not in alignment to the highest good of humanity. We're going to be working on that energetically, just sending as much energy and love and as much support as we can to the United Kingdom because I mean really our brothers and sisters over there, I mean they can't even speak up or speak out. You heard me say that even as an American, like if they catch you speaking about things right now, you're going to get jailed if you set foot on their land right now. I mean, if you step off the airplane, they're going to lock you up for, saying anything that goes against their interest, basically. So,
On a happy note, doesn't it just feel good to say CDT instead of CST? Happy Daylight Savings Time.
yeah.
Long
It's like the
day.
CDT plates. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I'm like, oh, the CDD plates.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right, Raquel. Like, there's something about this apathy. I think the people have become apathetic and they've become numb and they've become so comfortable that they forgot that their freedom and their comfortability and their sovereignty isn't actually free. It's something that they have to stand on guard for, and it's something that they have to fight back for, whether it comes to the pollutants in the air, their food and water, their government. Like, people have just fallen into a slumber. Like, all of these things erode the alpha masculine to a point that they can't stand up and defend their nation or even know what they believe in or know what they even fight for. I feel like on some level there's so many that are just lost that their connection to God and their connection to source and their connection to creator is so diluted that they don't even feel like they could step up and do anything about it. So it's like, sure, something like the force of Islam could come in and just sweep up everybody into it because they're not willing to fight for anything. So
But there is something good that is coming along, even though it might be, rough. So what I heard is that on March 21st, on the equinox, during that equinox period, that 24-hour period, it will, and I don't know if this is true. I'm sure people could argue against it, but a Vedic master said that it is the official ending of the Kali Yuga. So that brings open this huge amount of energy that's going to be rushing through in March. And what happens when that energy pushes through and rushes through, there's like a great purging that goes on. And who knows how long the purging will take place. And we all know with purging, it can be, hard. But once you get through that purging, that's when things will just like shoot off and ignite. So I feel something coming. And just like what Raquel's saying about, being in the photon belt. And, this is lining up with the precession of the equinoxes. And so if this 26,000 year cycle is ending, I mean, it's amazing what could come forth, from it. But we do have to go through that purging. So
so many people sleep lately. Everybody's been thrown off. It's like a flip-flop with the Schumann resonance. It's just, I don't know. It's just been so weird. A lot of nights for me, waking up at like 3:33 in the middle of the night.
Yeah, things have been off with that. Well, switching gears a little bit. So you guys did hear about what's going on with Pope Francis. Like he's not well. He came down with I don't know, was it the pneumonia and then he had some kidney failure, so he's actually I don't know if he's in the hospital currently, but he's not doing so good. They say he might be restabilizing, but essentially people have reported that he's been screaming out in the middle of the night, like this 333 thing. So maybe the shoe resonance is getting him as well. But he's been waking up saying that the demons are trying to drag him to hell. Um, and it's just so interesting because when I went to the Vatican, I had the most intense demonic spirit attacks in my sleep that I've ever experienced anywhere in the world. I'm not kidding you. I mean, it was like full on hijacking in the sleep space. They were like watching you, sitting on you while you were sleeping, hooking you in the jaw, coming out of your electronics in my sleep. I mean, they were doing all kinds of stuff to me. I could only imagine that during a time of illness and when the veils are more open because you're not well, that you have full access to what's looming there within those walls. It's just interesting to me. And it reminded me, and I brought this up in our group chat, about the sin eaters. And this is what I think is happening with the popes, is that when they come in to become the pope, that they have to take on the sin of the Catholic Church and that the Pope carries the sins. So it's like actual rituals that they do where when the previous Pope dies, they basically put food on him. The next Pope has to then eat a meal off of the dead body to acquire the sins and takes on the sin. So I think that's what the popes do. They carry the sin of the church and then they're passing it, on. So when does this stop? When does the sin actually get dissolved? Why is the Catholic Church carrying all of this? And I think this has something to do with this last Pope prophecy, because Pope Francis is the 111th Pope. He is, I mean, that's a significant number. They said there's not going to be one after the 112th, that there's a whole thing about this. You guys may have heard about it. It came from Saint Malachi's prophecy about the final pope. He only lists 112. He's going to take seat of Saint Peter. The prophecy states that the world will fall into anarchy after the final pope takes the seat of Saint Peter. But we know, like, these types of revelations, and like Ani just said, like they're also rebirthing prophecies. Like something just new might completely manifest in the timelines as we shift. Um, but yeah, so what do you guys think about this Pope prophecy? I guess the heads where the popes are like in the hall of the Pope heads, like there's actually only one more space left after Pope Francis.
I think for one, the Pope probably got many doses of the cucaracha needlecraft, probably mega doses, being part of what he is in, for one, I'm sure. I'm absolutely.
I was gonna say, did you guys ever hear the Fatima prophecies? It's like the Fatima prophecies were. I put it on an AI just to get it. So it refers to these visions these women had in 1917. Their names were Lucia, Jacinda, and Francisco. And they were three secrets that they were revealed about the world, and the third secret was about the church. And basically it says it was a prophecy of a satanic influence infiltrating the highest levels of the Vatican, warnings of a false church and the rise of a pope under influence of dark forces. fuels theories that Pope Francis might be the last pope, like you said, as per the prophecy of St. Malachi. It suggests an imminent spiritual battle between light and dark and the forces within the church. And it also aligns with claims of secret societies such as Jesuits or Freemasons steering the church's direction. So
And
I thought that was interesting.
yeah, and it's also falling in line because I just looked it up too. But so the Fatima prophecy is also falling in line with once the Pope does go, then that will bring in the Armageddon, and so that this is part of the whole Armageddon timeline. So I
Do
wonder
you
if all of these things are like kind of lining up, like the whole, Muslim thing, along with what's going on with the Pope. These are all signs that what's going on in Syria,
Yeah,
what's going
something
on in
big is about to
Israel.
happen.
So, but it has to come forth. It has to come out in order for us to move through this. We have to like move through this basically.
Well, I think that's when it's a good time for people like you and Indy, like with doing like stuff like you do with grid work, because I think we're going to see this fall of like all the religions. I really truly believe that. And I think people are really going to be looking for a different way to like of spirituality and like, you know, I really truly believe that. I think. I don't know.
I
That's what
agree.
it's
I
looking
agree.
like.
Yeah.
do you know
Yeah, I
who?
totally agree with Rob, and I think what Ani said as well, with this huge wave coming in. When you think about it, if you just take Christianity by itself, there's so many that just blindly follow the Pope, right? And what that being represents in terms of Christianity. But when you truly look at Christianity, and this is coming from my personal experience in channeling Yeshua, right? And when this being comes forth as a pure soul, it's like they don't want to be worshipped. They are beings just like you and I, they're just living in a different reality. And this being had an incarnation, but even that story is all completely inverted, right? And that entire religion is based off of that inversion of what that being was supposedly meant to be, right? And so when these people that are blindly following what the Catholic Church brings to them, it's going to be a huge reckoning for everybody, because they follow this with their hearts. They follow it through their, generations really of belief in this Christianity, right? And it's a good thing to have faith and to have a belief system, but to blindly follow what somebody else is telling you to believe in, I don't get that. And that's going to be a really tough reality for many to face, right? And I agree with you guys, I wish that religion as such could just be eliminated. And then, people just believe from their hearts, from that emerald center, if you will, from that true Christ consciousness, rather than believing in Jesus Christ as what is represented by the church, right? It's more Christ consciousness that is the truth right now rather than Christ itself.
And also in the new earth, there can't be religions because it brings separation and divide.
I
So,
agree.
Right.
so
And then
we,
just the instruction sets
yeah.
on these holy books. I mean, if you look at where even like land ownership came from, I think it came from the Torah. So when you think about when did the wars over land, ramp up or get the worst on the planet, I think it came with that book particularly. I mean, it's all over that book. So it's like, yeah, in order for New Earth to prosper, these books have to dissolve. I mean, we'd have to abolish the books and we'd have to embrace a new way of living and connecting with source and creator. The thing is, it's just like everybody's belief of how to do that. And then the domination force within that has to be dissolved as well. Because men of war can't seem to put their, I mean, it's like the reptilian mind is always hunting, it's always seeking, it's always looking to dominate, it's always looking to enforce something. That urge has to dissolve, so we have a lot of work to do, I think, as humanity. So what do you think would be for those that are seeing what's going on right now, because we're all eyes wide open, we have so much perception, we have so much 360-degree vision of what's occurring. What do you think's the best thing to be doing right now to keep yourself centered and grounded, anchored out of the fear timelines and just really, holding the grids and holding compassion for others? And how do we assist each other during these times? Because we're definitely in the midst of the Holy World War timelines. I mean, and just to go along with what Rob was just saying too, and Ani was just saying, like these are the prophecy timelines. We're in them right now. I mean, Israel is bringing forth the red heifers. You guys seen that? The red heifers, they're already preparing the red heifers. I mean, they are preparing to rebuild that temple right now, and that means the third Messiah. And like here we are having the Pope, having Islam, having all these things that are saying like this is coming, this is coming. So, how do we prepare ourselves in this time for what is occurring?
I just want to say, I think these religious people are just complete whack jobs. They really are. I mean, I hate to say it, like but to be on it for real though, I feel like we should focus. You asked what we should focus on. I think we should focus on inner alchemy, spiritual sovereignty, and community building. I think community building is huge, especially within our community. Like, I've been a part of like the UFO community, and I've been a part of like the SSP community, and even like other factions of different communities that are like in this podcast scene, because like I have a bunch of different people on my show, and I noticed that all these people like argue all the time. But like if we could come together, like everybody could come together, we could be like a great force. And I try to tell people that all the time, but like people can't seem to get over their differences. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the times we're in, because we are being poisoned heavily. We know we're being poisoned in the air, we're being poisoned in our food, the water. You know what I mean? They're trying to make men's testosterone go away, and like they're just trying to. It's a mess. So I don't know. That's why I said inner alchemy, spiritual sovereignty, and community building. But it seems like we have to do a lot more than that as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think at a very base level, just everyday things, just to raise your frequency vibration, I think is important. Listen to high vibrational music, take a walk in nature, hug your friends, hug your family, like Rob said, move into communities that support your energy and raise that frequency vibration just by being within that community. Speak, have joyful conversations like we are. This conversation, I think, is very high vibrational, even though we are talking about topics that could be, highly controversial, but it's raising our vibration. It's giving everybody that we're speaking to that galactic information, if you will, which is raising individual and collective vibration. Nourish your body, pick up a hobby that makes you happy. It's all about bringing that joy from your heart into your reality and vibrating from that space, right? So meditate, do yoga, bring that higher vibration into your every moment. Be present, be conscious in what you are doing and who you're reacting and who you're relating with. It all makes sense. And keep that heart-centered vibration into everything that you do. Check yourself, check your action. Am I doing this for my higher self? Am I doing this for my higher good? And when you get into that daily practice, it becomes like a moment by moment practice for you that you're going in the right direction, right? And so I think that makes for, better choices. And that way the collective, it's like when somebody sees you doing all of these things, it becomes infectious, right? Then you're changing not only your environment, you're changing the environment of everything around you and the people that you interact with. So and I'm just going back to what's happening from a galactic perspective, if you will. Like I talked earlier about us moving into the well, we are already there now, right? Into the photon belt. So from that perspective, we are already being changed. Our DNA is already being cleaned, if you will, right? From that perspective. And so we need to open ourselves up to this change, if you will, because we are essentially being exposed to what a light being is meant to be. So, our carbon-based body is changing to becoming a light-based body. And so we have to open up ourselves to receive that lighter energy within our body. And if we are doing all of these negative things, then we're just shutting that energy off. It's like that level of, energy above our head is just being cut off, which is what the Draco wanted us to do anyway, right? And so it's like we're giving into that agenda by shutting ourselves off from that light and from that light coming into our hearts and into our bodies. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
I was just gonna say, Raquel, real quick. I used to follow this guy. His name was Gerald Clark. He wrote books on the Anunnaki, but he would talk about like the New World Order and conspiracies and stuff too. But he kind of prophesized that too. He to like back up what you're saying. He said there would be this point, and he thought it was like now. I mean, he was like he died of cancer. I think he was targeted, but um, he would talk about this time where we would be in like the galactic center of the Milky Way or the photon belt or something like that. And he said what it would do is he said it would send like a huge like amount of energy to the planet. And he thought that like it would help, it would make humans evolve. You know, I don't know. Is that kind of where you're what you're getting at with that? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, I don't know if I can share a picture with you guys. I know I've shared this with Indy before. Can I do that, Indy?
Do you, are you able to? Let's see.
Yeah, I think Rob will be in this photon belt until about 2064, I believe.
Wow.
So we have time to actually, get our act together in a way. So let me see. Maybe I can send it to you in the
And I just want to
chat.
give Missy a farewell. She had to leave you guys, so just
Oh,
sending
see you, Missy. Good
I
seeing
Missy,
you.
get ready while I have an appointment at 7 o'clock. Love you guys. See you
bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye.
See you, Missy.
And also everyone watching, Rob actually had, you may have heard, if you're watching over on his channel, but he basically lost his channel. A whole thing went down. So the original channel that he had that he worked so hard on and built such an amazing following on, it just was ruthlessly, um, yeah, taken down and ripped away. So, we know how horrible that can feel and just how like defeating that can feel because it's just like, yeah, you put your heart and soul into your YouTube channel and just unbelievable. You didn't even do anything really crazy. Um,
Yeah, it was. I was posting everything controversial on Rumble, which is crazy. So like, it seems like they have. I mean, but like, if you look at like our community, like Tyler from Journey to Truth, they were taken down. Laura Eisenhower was taken down. Chris from Forbidden Knowledge News was taken down. It seems to be a thing in our community, and they'll find a reason. And when I argued with them on Twitter about it, they said every time I came with a reason for what they said, like they came up with something else. So. I don't know. I have a new channel, so I'm just gonna focus on that. And I'm on Rumble, and I'm on audio, and I'm on a couple other alternative platforms. But I mean, it just sucks to have to build a whole new channel when I had 20,000 subscribers, and yeah, now I'm starting over again. I mean, I don't know. It's tough, But
yeah,
thank you for mentioning that. That's.
yeah, and I'm gonna drop it in the chat here. So if anyone wants to go subscribe to Rob's channel, you guys can do that. Yeah, and I recommend he always has amazing people on his channel. Ani's been going on. Raquel, I think, is going to be going on soon if she hasn't already gone. Missy goes on Rob's channel. We all, rotate on each other's channels. So, yeah, please go and subscribe to Rob's channel. Um,
Indy, I texted and emailed it to you. I don't know if you got that picture, but if you didn't get it, that's no worries. I just wanted to share that with Rob.
Let me go to my email really quick. Okay, did you send to my IndigoAngel222?
Info at, yeah.
Oh, info? Okay. Okay, let me just screen share this really quick.
But yeah, I guess the ascension symptoms to look for is like fatigue, exhaustion, nausea, emotional releases, dizziness, anxiety. And I think Missy mentions sleep disruption, right? So all of these things happen. So if you look at that, we are like bang in the middle of that, right?
Wow.
So here's the photon belt. Yeah, we're right in the great solar flash. We're right in the middle of it. Okay.
So do you think guys think that's why maybe some people are acting like really crazy lately and things seem kind of like out of whack? Because that's how it seems for me. I don't know.
Yeah, so
and how.
Rob, like this probably this group and many of us have already been working on ourselves, right? Like we've been clearing our energy and raising our frequency, right? And so for those that don't necessarily understand what's going on, it's like a really hard reckoning for them, right? And so they're being bombarded from all sides, not just, politically or environmentally, but they're also being bombarded by these energies, which are like, going to their core and saying, you have to now deal with galactic information. You have to deal with, your present life, your past lives, and come to terms with all of that. So if you can just imagine the overwhelm that you're receiving on all levels of your being, right? And so it's very confusing. It's very stressful. It's, a lot of anxiety is being experienced. And I've noticed this, just from relating with my customers as well. And a lot of them are feeling this fractured, anxious sort of energy and a lot of confusion. And so, yeah, it's very, very important to stay focused and just raise your frequency vibration, like I said earlier.
I think some really good tips are that we always forget is that we are living on a planet that can help heal us as well. And so if we can just go back to Earth and ground ourselves, that alone can cleanse our energies and our systems. And just just going back to like remembering like trying drinking clean water. If you can maybe get a distiller and distill like the tap water, trying eating like healthy foods, wholesome foods, trying to like stay away from too much screen time. But it requires a form of discipline to do that. Like you have to want to do that, you have to desire that, and also like practice that on a daily to manage your system, you
Yeah.
know so but I feel like if people want to, then they will.
I definitely agree. I think it's a huge calling and a need right now to heal, and it might be on a mental level, an emotional level, a physical level, a spiritual level, but figure out where your trouble zones are and focus there. You know, for me personally right now, it's like I need to focus more on my physical health. I need to do more stretching. I need to do more stuff. I need to work on certain areas of the body. I got some stuff going on. For some people, it's like, it's more emotional healing, but don't deny, don't delay, don't put that off, prioritize that because, if you don't work on these things, like you're not going to have anything here to work with, It's like this body, this mind, this heart, this soul has to be the priority. So if you have any element or need of healing at all, definitely prioritize that during this time. You're going to need to because, I mean, just the simple basics of existing right now, going through the photon belt, these extra bursts of energy, all this stuff, it flares everything up in our body. And that's what the ascension symptoms are. This is what the DNA getting activated is. When the DNA gets activated, it's coming online to heal you. So that's what it does. It goes to all of those places where you need to be healed and makes it visible. So don't oppress that or suppress that. Let that come forward. Um, Whether you want to do it on your own, there's all kinds of meditation videos on YouTube. There are healing videos on YouTube. There's trauma healing on YouTube. There's books you can get and read. Um, get your resources, get your tools, or, all of us here are healers. I'm a healer, Ani's a healer, Raquel's a healer. You can come to us for healing sessions. We all specialize in different elements of this in which we can help people with their journey of healing, but just know that work is going to be your own. You are going to have to put that work in yourself and, get comfortable with being on your own, being by yourself, doing that work by yourself, not needing, not being codependent, not being um, angry at your parents or angry at this person for not being you, that person, this, and that. Center yourself and, focus on, what you have available to you and make the best of it. Practice gratitude and just be present with yourself and what, you're being told to do. If it's to slow down, some people just need to slow down right now. Sometimes it's just literally taking all of this crap off of your plate and simplifying your life because the stress levels, the cortisol levels, it's not good for your body. And it's not good when we're going through the photon belt. You don't want your cortisol to be stressing out when we're going through the photon because hang on for a ride. Like, I don't know if we're gonna make it. So things are intense, things are extreme, and with all of these, diabolical threats against hu that we are talking about against humanity right now, just know that like there is a divine plan. We do have angelic assistance. We do have source, the divine, the creator, the universe. All of this is just temporary. Suffering is temporary. War is temporary. These timelines are temporary. They are transitional phases that are going to bring about change. And we have to embrace the timelines of change. I think one of the biggest things you can do is don't spiritually bypass what's happening right now. Stay informed, stay aware of what's occurring. If it becomes too much for you and it feels like it's making you feel helpless or hopeless, then yeah, it's okay to step away and take a break from things, take your mind off things, pull away from the electronics, all of this stuff, you know, read a book, do some like focus on something else, focus on a goal for a little while. But at the same time, build that inner resilience within you have to, it's building muscle to be strong. And that's
I
what
was
you have to do. You have to build strength to be able to pay attention to what's going on because you also don't want to spiritually bypass what's happening and be out of it to the point that you don't know what's going on. And then, something hits you upside the head type of thing. So practicing your vigilance and your multidimensionality within that and building up your strength to endure the timelines we're in. Very significant, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Andy, people don't realize like how much the physical has an effect on the energetic and how much the energetic has an effect on the physical. That goes both ways. Like if you work out, like it'll help your energetic body if you're doing the inner work. Like, so I think people should be training anyway. I mean, I kind of let myself go when I broke up with my ex, but then I started working out recently and I started seeing like the benefits of it. Like you get the endorphins, you get that low cortisol, you feel more spiritually in tune. You know what I mean? Plus, a lot of crazy stuff's going on. It wouldn't hurt for people to be in good physical shape, especially, guys right now because I mean, not to say I know we were going to talk about illegal immigrants and stuff, but like they did bring a lot of men into the country that are of fighting age, and that was kind of weird. I thought that was really strange. So I say just for guys out there, just stay ready. You should, I don't know.
Yeah, especially for the young men, they need, and they're like stripping them, especially in the United States, of their testosterone, and so like the men like are becoming apathetic. That one word, I feel like the men are super apathetic. The young men, like 25 and under, and like they are our powerhouse. Like their bodies, like if they go out and exercise and work out and like get off that screen and Reddit, or whatever, YouTube, they have that strength. They're stronger than 30 or 40-year olds most of the time because biologically. So yeah, I always advocate for the young men for sure because of my son. So he's a teenager,
Yeah.
but
I
and I
think
want him
that's
to be
really good
strong.
advice, Rob, for the
Yeah.
men. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, my goodness, you guys, this has been a fun show. I feel like we've been a little all over the place. We haven't come together, for the last couple of weeks. We took a little break off live, but it's really good to check in with everyone. And let's see what we have over in the comments. Let's see, anything coming in through? Shakana Grace says, "Don't delay. The time is now." Yes, she's feeling it. Jack Carter, it's bringing everything to the surface. Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. The machine on the moon keeps the body in density and pain. If we break it, we will get our light bodies. Yeah, we've been trying to break those force breeder chains for a while. It's our hormones. It's the hormones that keep you locked in. It's pretty wild. Um, yeah, Shakana Grace says, take care of your kidneys. Yeah, good advice. Kidneys are so important. Detox. Jack Carter, you need to stay grounded. Yes, grounded and feeling safe. Having a safe space that you can focus on other elements of grounding. If you're not in a place that you can self-sustain yourself, you're reliant or codependent on someone else type of thing too. Think about, emancipating yourself. I think that was the message for the United Kingdom that was coming through yesterday was they're going to enter into an emancipation cycle. They have to emancipate themselves from the corruption. And I think that's what the Arthurian activations are going to bring about is redemption, emancipation. Same for Canada, Raquel. We talked about that, like however that's going to play out, but emancipating yourselves from the negative systems. Yeah, Shikana says, yes, let's train like ninja warriors. I've been getting the call to start like moving my body more. Yes. Oh my goodness. We're gonna have a 5K Starseed run. Everyone come meet me down in Pensacola. Training on the beach at 5 a.m. You guys better be out there.
Candy, can I just say something real quick? I just want to say, like, I really appreciate you inviting me today because it's been really, like, I've been still doing my shows every day, but it's been really depressing since I lost my channel. And when you were sitting here, I was just thinking back, like, all those shows you and I did. Like, we've been doing shows, me and me, for like 4 years. You know what I mean? We did shows when you were in Algeria. Do you remember that? We did that, and we did so many shows on my channel. I have a lot of those backed up. I have all the files and stuff like that. But I just wanted to let you know that, like, I look at you like a sister, and like, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you introducing me to Missy and Ani and Raquel. Raquel's been on my show once, but we're doing another podcast soon. But Ani's already been on twice, and Missy comes on all the time. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel great to be a part of your friends, and like I said, I look at you like a sister. So thank you.
Yeah, I feel the same, Rob. Totally. Like I just whenever I hear you're struggling, I just genuinely want to like help you out and like share your channel and tell everyone to go subscribe because I mean, you do such amazing work and you're so loyal and so dedicated and you support so many in our community and we really appreciate you. So just know we love you, we care about you. Eventually, someday we're gonna get you out to a crazy event that we have going on. I don't know when it's gonna be, but every time we have one, we're like, Rob, come on. But yeah, yeah, we feel the same and it's good to connect. Thank you, Ani, for coming on. Thank you, Raquel,
Thank
for coming
you.
on. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Missy. It's good to bring
We
it
are
in.
building community. That's what we're
Yep.
doing.
That's what we do. We can't do this alone, that's for sure. And we love you all so much for watching today. We hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Have a beautiful everything. Check out the links in the description. We're going to do the United Kingdom grid work. So come and support this, you guys. This is very important for us to support our brothers and sisters in the UK right now and support those lands, support the Arthurian Grail Rise, and also consider coming out to South Carolina with us in April. This all ties into these timelines as well. This is our next boots on the ground event. So be sure to check it out. We would love to have you. We'd love to meet you in person. And that's a wrap. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste, guys. And peace, YouTube.